Hello there everybody, my name is BDF018 and welcome to Dagon, or Dagon, one of the two. A demonic narrative experience which takes about half an hour to complete. We're going to head into this today, and apparently you'll never look at the sea the same way again after watching this. I don't know, I've only seen one or two screenshots where you're on a boat, so let's head in. And if this is, oh wait, Dagon is a faithful... you will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progression through locations along with the plot. Okay, so like I said, I was going to say, there is a few DLC to this as well, so if this goes well, and you lot want to see more, we'll do them.
Since by tonight I shall be no more.
During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey, others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the Elder sign. You can also access all of the found facts later. They will be available in the main menu. Okay, thank you very much. So, bonjour. Welcome to, I'm going to call it Dagon. This is...
Penniless,
okay.
And at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable.
English, I like it.
Bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
The squalid street. Ooh, you tough boy.
From my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Okay. Okay. We have ourselves... I thought it was a lighter. What is that? What have I grabbed?
One of the most
open... Oh. Okay. It was in one of the most open and least frequented places of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell to victim to the German sea raider. That made no sense. Okay. The boat's over there, but is there anything else hiding around? No, there's not. Off to the boat we go. Off we pop. Bang, bang. Gunshots.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the HUN had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize.
Legit. Legit,
were
bro.
treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Okay. Well, we are naval prisoners. Do we go to that? The boat? The lifeboat? Or do we go to the flag? We go to the flag. The HUNS. The HUNS were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids, who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on 27th of July 1900 before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves. One that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. That sounds like actual true history? I don't do history, so... We're off to the sea, we're off to the boat, we're off to the lifeboat, I think that is, yeah.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone, in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Pretty sure you were okay for water anyway. Just, you know, just a thought. Anything else hiding around? No, just the bag. What's in our bag? Blush.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
Okay.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
This is a pretty game, by the way. The water's really pretty. Like, really pretty.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in
sight. I think I left clicked. I'm sorry. So what do we go? We're going to the moon. We're just gonna go up to the moon. You know what? To the moon. Avast. Let's go.
The weather kept fair, and and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Okay. Well, we are on a boat. Yes, that is what we're doing here. We're waiting for time to pass. I'm going to drink out of my squench bottle.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
All
The
right.
change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Okay. Oh, is that an octopus? That's surely something. Oh, blimey. That's many octopi, but they are attacking my boat and struggling for life, it would seem. Did the moon do this?
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
Okay.
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
I'm quite horrified too. I mean, he's kicking. He's really trying.
For there was in the air
not so much.
and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
You want to try and help now?
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity.
Is that like a big sea cricket?
There was
Good legs he's
nothing
got.
within hearing, and nothing in
Oh,
sight
look at that.
save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
Yeah, I can understand
The
that.
sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
The inky marsh. The inked marsh. Okay, we can go to the boat. Is there anything else hiding around? Aha! The origins of Dagon. Dagon seems to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Irvin S. Cobb about unnatural affinities between a hybrid idiot and strange fish of an isolated lake. I'm the hybrid idiot. Supernatural horror in literature, H.P. Lovecraft. A Lovecraft dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. I dream that whole hideous crawl and can yet feel the ooze sucking me down. In defense of Dagon, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft's interest in the subject stemmed from his aversion to fish and sea smells. In his own words, I have hated fish and feared the sea and everything connected with it since I was 2 years old. Same. But I cannot recall what earlier experience gives me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. Dweller in Darkness, Lovecraft, 1927, Donald Wanderi. Wandre even, not even Wanderi. Wanderi sounds like a better name though. I ain't gonna question your name though. That's your birth given name. That's your birth given right. Over to the boat. Oh, that sounds grim. Ugh. Okay.
As
What
I crawled
wonders
into the
lay me over?
stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
The ground is breathing. The ground is breathing.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
This is all foul play, if you know what I mean. That is a big boy. So we've got a fish. How fish is made? I know how fish are made. I played that game recently.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved
It's a
across
fossil.
the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for travelling purposes in a short time.
Let's hope so. But then again, it'll
That
kill all the
night
animals
I
off.
slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack
Still
containing
trying.
food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Possible. It's guys that you are wild to be found, I think, especially with those breathing ground and octopuses still flapping around your boat. But I'm glad you've got some hope in yourself, because that's always a positive. That's always a way to look at things.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
Good for you. Are they all dead? Yeah, I think
The
they are.
odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
All right, let's go conquer the land, I guess. Off we go. Still looks wet. If you can walk on it, good.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
What the hell is this? That's a giant claw. Is that like the mad crab of the southern seas? That's a big crab. Okay, there's something over there. We've got to check around me. It did say that there are things hiding anywhere, so I'm gonna make sure I look through left, right, do any 180s I can do. You lot. That is a blue whale. That is really sad. That is really sad. So I'm just gonna get away from it. I don't want to be upset today.
That night, I encamped.
Fuck is
and on the
that?
following day still travelled toward the
Kraken.
though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
It's the Kraken of the South. The horrors of the ocean. The creator of the Cthulhu mythos and the fictional underwater city of Relea was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean, because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Mariana snailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet below the ocean's surface, in never-ending darkness and hellishly crushing pressures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. Upon glancing at the modern photos of deep-sea creatures such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth or the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard not to find some irony in this. I definitely agree, especially when you just come across something like this. Like the giant squid, the kraken, the beast of the south. Not the east, because that's too obvious, isn't it? On we move.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound.
What have you been eating and drinking?
Much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
What country is this anyway, as well? You know?
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
This is a pretty little game,
Such
actually.
visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon, I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Is there any point in going up it? Why don't you go around it? What's the point in going up it? Like, what do you think, you're going to find a pot of gold at the top or something?
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me.
Right.
But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
Right.
I felt myself on the edge of the world.
Maybe you are. I mean, you know, flat earthers, you know, gather together right now if you think that's on the edge of the world.
Peering over the rim
I know, I
into
lost
the
my sense
fathomless
there.
chaos of eternal night.
Oh dear, that is to be
Through
creepy.
my terror
Oh, God.
ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness.
Well, I mean,
As
alright.
the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Oh, you got a bit of a drop in, have you? Oh, how pretty. Okay.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent. Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Look at you using formal language, big boy. Okay. The declivity. Ooh, English, Papa, old English in the 1940s and
Urged on by an
1830s.
impulse which I
It's a
cannot
tower.
definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath,
Someone left the Empire State Building under the water.
gazing
Oh
into
my
the
god.
Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me.
That's one of them No Man's Sky portals,
An
isn't
object
it?
that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Moon. Okay, so we're heading towards the box, are we? We're heading towards a No Man's Sky alien glyph. That's cool. We can do that. More
That it
tracking.
was merely a gigantic piece of stone. I saw.
There's more to it than that, buddy. There's more to it than
But I
that, I'm
was
sure.
conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Someone had a helicopter just dropped
A
it.
closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Oh, naughty boy. Sensations. Oh, this rock's doing things
But
to me.
despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Stone, mush, ground, and more mush. Okay, that's a pretty hefty surroundings. Pretty basic for this time of year, this time of day. Water.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope.
Aliens! I see an alien.
Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
How was that kept so well preserved for millions of years? It's been underwater. We've been crushed by the currents, bruv. It would have been damaged, you know? The glyphs would have...
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
Yeah, I've never seen a hammerhead shark anywhere. I've never seen a sea turtle or a kraken or a shell, you know. I've never seen any of them in books ever.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world,
What, like
but
sharks?
whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Okay. You. Storytelling methods. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later work, such as telling the story through carving, the Mountains of the Madness, named the city, journals, and characters' notes show is also considered the origin of pop book Cthulhu methods, mythos even, when Lovecraft said the stories. I feel like this guy's talking about himself. I'm sorry, I'm here
Plainly
for the
visible
game.
across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto,
That's not a fish, it's a
or
person.
paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail,
Little circles and they're flying.
for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips,
Oh, what them lips do.
glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall.
A big forehead.
Curiously enough, they seem to have been
Sorry.
chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Great. So, I mean, you got to remember, buddy, their drawings or slash paintings, they're very, very detailed for how long they've been under the water as well. But, you know, in a drawing slash painting, you can depict anything to be any size you so wish. So that could just be him having a bit of a piss take with his mate and like, hey, that fucking thing's massive, and actually he's like the size of that circle. You never know, just a thought.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist,
Anthropologist.
I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
Oh, saw what?
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Oh. Oi.
Fiend-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith,
Is that what he... Why does your breathing sound way different?
about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Don't turn around and look at
I
me.
think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Maybe he carried you back. You never know. Oh, okay, we're here now. Well, I mean, what the hell was that thing? Was that Steve Jobs in his water house before he passed away? Is this game set in 2005?
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
La, da, 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 I'll sing for you. Let's go forth underneath the claw. Let's go, it's very loud.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital,
As you do. Okay.
brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
How? There was no water left.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Well, this is like the screenshot apart from the boat that I saw before I played the game. I've seen this room. I don't know what you do in this room, but I've seen it. Yeah, of course.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon,
Dagon,
the
don't know.
fish god.
Ah, right. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prisoner warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He's often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's work, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that reside in the oceans. He's worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon, Fantastic. That is some wealthy information to my brain, which I will forget in the next 5 minutes. Sorry, but it's true.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and an anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works with his company Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works, after his death he's surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu Mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world as opposed to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misinterpreted in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu Mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Mortal plane being the world, I'd imagine. Hello? Here we go. Fantastic work. Oh, you're pretty. Pretty ugly.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning,
Yep.
that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given
that will
only
be started
transient
now.
surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now,
Fair.
I am to end it all,
Oh.
having written the full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Oh. Is it time to die?
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever, as I lay
back on
sun-stricken
the pretty
and
boat.
raving in the open boat
Oh.
after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment
It's a toy
be
boat. Look how
crawling
small it is.
and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable
Oh,
likenesses in
hello,
subtle
you're
obelisks of
very big.
water-soaked granite.
Oh, you're very
Dream
big.
of the day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Oh, that looks like a lot of bombs. That's off to the Statue of Liberty. We're in New York. Manhattan, even. Either or.
The end is near.
Oh.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Yeah, I'm trying to sleep in here. Can you please leave me be? Please. I don't want to go to the door. I don't want to answer the door. No. Can I just go to bed? He can't get in. I mean, he's trying his damnedest.
It
You know
shall
what?
not find me.
I think it shall. Oh.
God, that hand!
At least you're speaking normally for once. Oh.
The window! The window!
Where's the fucking window? Ah! Move! Oh. You landed pretty hard, that sounds. And that's the game. That was interesting. That was intriguing. And I enjoyed that. I didn't understand everything that was going on because you were speaking in ye old English sometimes, but I enjoyed Dagon. Quite a fun experience, that one. Mainly narrative. It is a narrative horror. Well, we don't even say it's horror. It's just like you're learning about the deep depths. You're learning, it kind of pulls you into what if the ocean just went today and we were left with a bottomless pit of shit and all the creatures from the deep depths came up to the surface. You know what I mean? Even though they'd be dying, you'd see what was at the deepest depths of the world, and that is quite scary in itself. Currently, the only DLC available for this game is the Eldritch Box. The little glass bottle has not come out yet. So if this video gets 20 likes, I will play Dagon, the Eldritch Bottle DLC. That's up to you guys to do and to achieve. So hopefully that will become a possibility. Now, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to see more videos like this, make sure, again, you leave a like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments down below. So with that said, I've been BDFO18, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one. Stay safe.